Sarge.
Il est passé. Super, l'artiste. Super, encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! Vi er i semifinale igjen!
Welcome to part 2 of our EHF Euro 2026 preview, and welcome back to my microphone, which is hopefully giving you some quality sound as opposed to a bit of muffling in that first episode. So apologies for that. It's Alex Kulesh here, joined by Chris O'Reilly. How are you doing, Chris?
Good, Alex. We're recording this one late on a Tuesday as we await our special guest for part 2 to join us on the chat, and continues to ramp up. We had loads of warm-up games over the last few days. The championship starts already on Thursday. Make my way down to Malmö on Friday. I know we complained during the Women's World Championship of the staggered start. Well, I'm going to be a victim of it because my first games are on day 3 of the championship. So I'll have 2 days of watching handball before I actually get to go into it with Sweden's group.
I was just thinking, we were talking about in the first episode how we're so punctual about getting that first preview out a good week before the championship actually started. But I think what we didn't account for is all of the friendly games that happened in that week in preparation. So I'm sitting here after watching Iceland play France, after watching Switzerland, and I'm so much more informed on those teams in the first preview that we did. But this is not going to be the focus. We will, of course, delve into some of those results, and of course friendly match results don't really mean anything before a championship, but it does give an interesting insight into how teams set up, what players are taking responsibility, what structures are put in place. So very relevant going into the tournament, but because France beat Iceland 31-29, that doesn't tell us anything except for that they're two fantastic teams.
It was a fantastic game.
And it was a fantastic game. But today we're going to focus on groups B, C, and E. And I think these are the big ones. We're going to discuss a lot about Denmark and their chance to, claim their first European Championship in 14 years, for Mathias Gidsel to get that final medal that he's been missing, the gold glittering medal that he's been missing and really, really wants. And for that, of course, we have the number one internet handball expert, probably number one expert in handball, Rasmus Boysen, coming on to give a bit of insight into Denmark and, of course, the other groups. With Denmark in Group P, there's Portugal, North Macedonia and Romania. Portugal, a very exciting team. France, Norway sitting on top of Group C, and the big teams in Group B being Sweden and Croatia. So a lot of big hitters in this episode, I think. If we're comparing the two episodes, I'm going to make a bet that there's going to be a few more medals from this one.
Potentially all of the medals.
Potentially all of the medals.
Potentially. With that one set up very nicely and Rasmus ready to join us, shall we dive into our chat with Rasmus Boysen?
Welcome, Rasmus. It's been a little while since we've spoken to, but hope you're doing well and hope you're excited for the EHF Euro in Denmark. Another one in the Scandinavian countries, but hopefully you'll still make it to the Jyske Boxen at some stage.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it once again, and I'm ready.
We'll start with the headline team, shall we, in Group B, with Denmark, Portugal, Macedonia and Romania, and 4-time reigning world champions, Paris 2024 Olympic champions, but no Euro gold since 2012 for Denmark. It feels like this is becoming a very personal mission for a lot of these players to fill that gap in their trophy cabinet. What's the temperature at the moment? What's the mood like in Denmark?
The temperature is like a handball temperature. Everything is buzzing around this championship, and I think despite a large number of injuries in the backcourt, I'm pretty sure that everything is pointing towards Denmark. Finally maybe could be the European Championship champions again. And I think that it's pretty hard for me to see why this team should not have a very good chance of winning the title once again. It feels like no one has yet truly cracked the code to stop the Danish attack, and it almost always seems like Nikolaj Jakobsen, the Danish national coach, has a counter for everything. As a Dane, is of course fantastic that this Danish national team is so dominant in these tournaments in these years. But yeah, maybe I also see it as a little bit challenging for the sport if the Danish team just keep steamrolling yet another tournament. For me, handball needs to be unpredictable sometimes, and of course, this main round could be the time for unpredictable results. So I hope that, of course, Denmark will have a good chance, and for the tournament, it would, of course, be good for them to go to the semifinal. But I also see a lot of difficult matches. Also in the group, I actually think that Portugal have increasingly become one of the very few teams that play without respect when they meet some of the best opponents. So I think when Portugal will play Denmark in the boxing, I think they will think themselves that they are capable of putting Denmark under pressure. So let's see a lot of exciting matches coming up.
Yeah, I think Denmark come in as overwhelming favourites, and I personally disagree with that for once, and I can go into some of the reasons, but I think people look at the last World Championship and the ease that Denmark swept through it and how they really were above every single other team by so much. But when I look at their route to it, it was some easy groups, Brazil in the quarterfinal, a Portugal team that had just, already made their big effort to get to the semi-final, and then a close match against Croatia in the final. And for once, we're going to see a Danish team really challenged from the start, as you said, with Portugal in the group and then in the main round group. And I'm not really sure if that's a benefit, because previously they've been able to ramp up and run away, or they'll just get beaten down and then fall into a main round group that has France, Germany, Portugal in it, that really is a challenge for just 2 spots. So what I'm asking maybe is, do you think it's going to be as easy this time around, or how will Denmark react if they actually lose 1 or 2 of these games? Because this team just doesn't lose until the end. They haven't lost until at least the final of Euro 24, but there's a real chance that they could lose a game in the main round and have to bounce back. And how likely do you think that is, and how will they react to that?
I'm pretty sure that they will cope with some challenging times throughout the games. I think that maybe that's the biggest key to the success of Denmark is when they play the matches. Sometimes throughout the matches they have problems, but they cope. They find new ways to get the wins. Also in the tight matches, I think. And of course, I don't think it will be as easy as the World Championship, and I don't hope that it will be as easy. But Denmark, they are at home. They have boxing. Historically, they are very, very strong at championships at home. So for me, it will be a very, very big surprise if they will not go to the semifinals. And then, of course, there's a lot of good teams that on the right day can beat Denmark. So I see them as favorites for winning the title, but it's not like I'm 90% sure, not at all. Of course, Denmark also have a lot of respect because there's a lot of good opponents out there, and there's also that for Denmark. So we'll see. I just think there's a lot of stuff pointing towards a good tournament for Denmark once again, and I guess they have maybe the best player in the world, the best goalkeeper in the world, and historically that's very good to have that in tournaments.
It sure is. You did mention at the top there that there's been some discussion and worries maybe about injuries, and particularly in the playmaker position, which it still feels like is something that was being discussed over the weekend with the Golden League, and particularly the game against Norway, which they were drawing at halftime before they found their solutions in the dressing room and exploded into life in the second half. What do you think of the solutions that Denmark might actually use for their playmaker position, and do you think it's actually something they'll be worried about?
Not worried, but of course it's a challenge. Rasmus Lauge has been amazing in the Danish national team for several tournaments when he is fit. He has had some problems in December with injuries, but I think he will go through the tournament and get better and better. I think the biggest change for Denmark, maybe ahead of this tournament, is that it looks like they will play a lot with two left-handed players in the backcourt, Gisle in the middle and Hox at the back. It looked really, really dangerous in the test match against Norway, and if Hoxha hadn't been injured before, we would also have been seeing it for several other championships. But now he's ready, and I think that's maybe the new part for Denmark. But okay, we have some injury problems, but still a lot of great players, and it's not impossible that a player like Arnoldsen maybe will be fit for a semifinal. Who knows? Of course, it will be Gisle and Pytlik with a lot of pressure again, but it seems like they are best in that way. Gisle wants to play all the time, and he's just getting better and better with the playing time. So I don't think it's a problem for Denmark. But of course, in Denmark, sometimes you also talk about it's a long tournament, at the Euros in 2024, with a long tournament playing France in the final. Maybe some of the players looked a little bit tired, but I don't know. I think these players they know how to play a lot of matches in the biggest clubs in the world. So, but yeah, it is a change that I think we'll see more offensive play with two left-handed players in the backcourt.
That was a really interesting one. And I think in that game against Norway, they switched to that. And I think Nikolaj Jakobsen actually came out and said that it's not something that they had prepared too much. It's not something they had practiced, or it's something that they kind of got forced into. And it worked incredibly, because I think Matthias Gisel is relishing this playmaker role these days. I think the two left-handers on a court is the perfect solution for Gisel. You've seen it in Füchse Berlin. We're going to see it with DKM in the future. Maybe any thoughts on that? Any thoughts on the future backcourt of DKM and Gisel before we continue?
And Pytlik.
And Pytlik, of course. Just another guy.
Yeah, it's nothing new for Gisle, because both in GOG but also, of course, in Berlin, even if he starts in the right back position, he really likes to go in the middle to find these spots. And to play also in the Danish national team together with Pytlik, near to Pytlik. They have an understanding together which is very, very unique. So it makes sense, and I think he will develop the same thing in Füchse when DKM arrives. So why not? And even he has talked about it himself, that it could maybe also prolong his career with playing sometimes in the playmaker position. So I think it's normal, it's natural that he also will play in that position.
You do make a really good point about the attrition on the team, and in particular, I think this is a championship which is, this Denmark team is fully Gisel's. Like, this is Gisel world. Even looking back at the 2024 European Championship just 2 years ago, this was still Mikkel Hansen's team. It was his last tournament, but Mikkel Hansen scored 9 goals in that final where he lost in extra time to France, and Gisel scored 8 from 8. He was already the best player in the world, but it wasn't fully his team. And with that kind of a little bit of lack of depth, if you can say that for Denmark, or a bit of struggles in the backcourt. A lot falls on Gitzel, who's been playing with injuries. Like, there was a story came out where he had some sort of, was it an elbow injury, and he just played through it at the end of the year. And he is bionic. He wants to play every minute. He runs for every ball. He's insane. But we could see a situation where he gets targeted and does slow down as this tournament goes on, as the games build up. And I think that's where, for Denmark, it has been Putlik that has stepped up in championships. I think his form at club level hasn't been to the same level as with the Danish national team. So do you think that for Putlik as well, this is a even bigger championship where he is absolutely needed to show up?
I think he will show up. I'm not sure he is absolutely needed. I still think that Denmark, they have a lot of great backcourt players. And I also think that we need to talk about the defense, because when we talk about Denmark, we talk a lot about offense, counter-attacking phase and everything like that. And that's also amazing. But the fact is that Denmark have developed a very, very strong defense after all. They have a lot of different players, all-rounding players. They can play in a lot of different style in defense. Back players which like to take a lot of height in the beginning, but also back players who can be more in the defense type, and the same in the middle. So I also see that as a big thing for Denmark, also to get these easy goals from the counter-attacking phase. That right now Denmark, they have a lot of options defensively, and that's also the fact this time with Lasse Andersson, with Mads Mensa, with Rasmus Lauge, Magnus Landin, and in the middle Emil Bergholt has been very, very good also in these test matches and so on. So there's a lot of options both in defense and offense, and often we also see new players coming in and getting a bigger and bigger role for Denmark. There's a lot of talk in Denmark about Lasse Møller, who has struggled with a lot of injuries throughout time, but he has also showed in Flensburg, playing together with Putlik, that of course we know he has a lot of potential, but why not this tournament? Maybe he will get his breakthrough for the national team. There's a lot of new players like Mads Svane, who also have been amazing in the Danish league and is another type. So, of course, Putlik is very important, but I don't see him as important as Gitzel, in my opinion. It seems like Gitzel, all the players playing around him will just get 10% better with him. So I think he can make Lasse Møller 10% better and so on. So for me, he's a key player, but we also need to remember the Danish defense. And of course the Danish goalkeeper duo also amazing. So I think Denmark is much more than Gitzel.
Nikolaj Jakobsen was talking about that over the weekend as well, about how important the defense is to all of this, and maybe taking some pride, maybe in an area that he can take a little bit of claim over, where the attack is so Gitzel focused. Although, as we know, Gitzel loves to scrap a little bit in defense as well. Yeah, I'm excited to see Lasse Møller actually get a proper chance with the national team. It always feels like he's been injured at the wrong times, and of course it's been a very stacked position. So even with Lasse Andersson being on the edge of the team in recent years, so they definitely have options there.
I'm not trying to say Denmark don't have a great squad. let's just be clear. I think they do.
Clutching at straws, Alex.
This is clutching at straws for sure. No one is saying that Denmark did not have an incredible squad.
Is there any worries in the squad on your side, Rasmus? Any areas that you think maybe could be exploited?
It's difficult. We have seen throughout times that maybe sometimes Denmark in defense will have problems against very physical, strong teams like France, for instance. That could be a problem. I don't see it as a big problem, I guess, but maybe later in the tournament that could be the case. Otherwise, it's difficult to see. Maybe we don't have this kind of shooter anymore like on Mensing. We of course have Lasse Møller and Lasse Andersen and Mads Hoxer who Pytlik, who of course can shoot from distance, but not that long range shooter. We don't have that anymore. But it's very difficult to find these problems at the moment, to be honest.
I think where I was really going with the squad of Denmark, and I think we've had all these discussions online, especially where, could a Danish B team still get a medal in a championship, which, maybe. But I was really looking at France, and ultimately, I think they have a much better backcourt, and much better is probably a little bit much.
Have you heard the latest news?
I have heard the latest news, so that I had this kind of speech prepared that
okay,
there's two full backcourts. I was gonna say that France have their first line, which is an insanely informed Prandi, a exceptional Aymeric Meen, and a world-class Dika Mem. And then their second line is, or at least was, a rising star in Thibaut Brier at left back, MVP of Euro 2024, Nedim Remili at centre back, and one of the best players in the Champions League this season, Melvin Richardson. But of course, now they don't have that, so that breaks my case. But when you look at just like backcourts, and we all know that Gisel is something special and above all. When you look at backcourts, that French backcourt is formidable. It's exciting. It's insane. And I think everyone's gotten a little bit carried away with the hype for Denmark and how easy it is for Denmark, and shouldn't forget about France and just the absolute talent that team has. And again, they're going to meet in the main round. They might play a couple of times with the way this tournament is shaping up. So how do you compare those two teams, and what's your expectation for France?
In my opinion, Denmark, they are better at playing modern handball. They are better at coping with problems. I think that France, they play slower, more physically, and that's for me the problem. Sometimes throughout the games, they have good periods of times at the games, but when like Denmark trying to do something new offensively and find solutions, they have problems doing the same, I think, France. But I actually think, pretty convinced that the loss of Nedim Remli is not as big a blow as many expect, because for me it will make life easier for Gilles in order to distribute the playing time. And in my view, France they are better offensively with Min when he plays a bigger role with more flow, more speed. It's more unpredictable. So for me, it's two different types of offense, and I fully agree. If you look at player from player, for me, France, they have a bigger level overall, but seeing the type of offense, I think that the Danish offense is much more efficient than France.
And one other area of this France team, which traditionally we can never ignore, ever since Thierry Omaye retired from the team, is the goalkeeper position. I was watching the test match against Iceland the other day. We mentioned it in our intro as well. A very entertaining game. And there were some good moments from Bolzanger and Debonnet, but that is definitely, in all the conversations of goalkeeper pairings, France are nowhere in anyone's kind of power ranking or top fives in this regard. They have some strength and power in defence, and of course they're trying to make up for that. And there are ways you can make up for maybe not having the absolute best goalkeeper pairing. But is that something that also will be a real downfall for them when it comes to the big main round matches against the likes of Denmark, Portugal and Germany?
For me, that's the biggest difference from Denmark to France, the level of the goalkeepers. But Sinclair, he slowly convinced me that he has qualities to maybe become a top level goalkeeper. We should remember he's only 25 years old, and maybe the past year or something like that, he has looked pretty promising for me. So if I were France and the France national team coach, I would maybe try to make him the clear first choice, and then use De Bonnet like a joker, maybe not a joker, but a clear backup. Yeah. Also for the future. I think that's also been a problem for France. Of course, they have not had the top level goalkeeper with consistency the last couple of tournaments, but they try to find a new goalkeeper every tournament, and that's not good for the future. It's not good for the confidence. So for me, it should be Bolsinger, and then just hope that he will continue his development and then maybe become a top level goalkeeper. That would make sense for me. But yeah, of course, in some matches it could be decisive, but it's not like Bolsinger or Desponnet. They are not bad goalkeepers, not at all, and the French defense is very strong. So it could be decisive, but and I think that most of the other goalkeeper couples in this main round they are better, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think the two big advantages that Denmark have over France is the goalkeeper in Emil Nielsen, who has been just sensational at each tournament. But I think coaches as well. I think you said, kind of summarizing what you're saying, but Nikolaj Jakobsen is a much better coach than Guillaume Gilles. France keep going to, their old boys for their coaches, from Dinard to Gilles. And I know that, kind of online, there's a little bit of apprehension about what Guillaume Gilles can bring, but it's almost like this kind of Carlo Ancelotti's Real Madrid, where it's which might suit a team like that. It's not overly coached. You got to just keep morale up, and you just have the talent that shows up. And ultimately, the defense is still incredibly strong with Fabregas in there, with Karl Conan, and now Thibaut Brier looking like he's going to play a much bigger role in this championship, and no longer a baby giraffe. Like he's grown into his limbs and is a powerful young man, not a lanky teenager as he was in previous championships. They're two teams that have landed in this side of the main round, but might go back to Portugal a little bit. And you said that you expect really big things from this Portuguese team. It's a team that's rose during the World Championship, got to semi-final, kind of wilted at that stage. But do you think that they're ready to take on the next step?
I'm not so sure about that. And that's mostly because Diogo Rema Marques, he's not with the team. Going back to the goalkeepers, they will have problems with finding this top level goalkeeper. And I think it's Diogo Rema for the future. And when he's not going this time, they will have problems. They have a fantastic backcourt. They have a strong core from Sporting, and I think they arrive with a lot of young players full of hunger and energy and power. The Costa brothers, of course, will run the show once again. Salvador, which is capable of doing a lot of stuff both defensively and in offense. And yeah, they are one of my favorite teams, national teams at the moment, because I think they play with a lot of power, with a lot of dedication and passion. But without a top-level goalkeeper, it is very, very difficult playing 7 matches before going to the semifinals. So I see Portugal this time as a team who, on the right day, can defeat all the other nations in the main round, but consistently winning like 4 or 5 matches in a row, it will be very, very difficult, in my opinion.
The test match I saw against Spain, Capdeville, did fairly well at times in what was a good handball match as well, and you could see the fight they have in defence. But seeing him do that 7, 8, 9 times at a championship is really hard to imagine. Of course, he can surprise us, and Portugal are a team that would probably happily say, yeah, you can score 36 goals, we'll score 39. Maybe not the most sustainable approach for a championship like this, and something you feel has to give at some point. But, we're talking about these teams in Group B and C. In our chat in the first preview, we were kind of looking at ways that, the groups could find a little bit of, go a little bit off balance with some results, but it really does seem to be very stratified in both of them, with like Denmark and France as the clear favourites in B and C. Then you have the second tier of Portugal and Norway. You like to talk about underdogs as well, Rasmus. Is there no chance here for King Kyril's Macedonians or the Czechs and Daniel Kubish's inherited strong defence?
For North Macedonia, I think it will be difficult. They are without Manaskov and Teleski. There's been some conflicts with Kirill Lazarov and several of the players, and neither of them is included. They, of course, have Marko Mitev returning, a very, very good player. Before he got this severe knee injury, he was very, very good. And of course, together with Kuzmanovsky, they of course have a chance. We know Mitrevsky, sometimes an orthodox goalkeeper who sometimes makes some very good matches. And I think the North Macedonian League is on the rise. Good players playing also in the Champions League and so on. So it's not impossible. Romania, they don't have a chance. They have some exciting new players like Daniel Stanciu and also Dedu, but they are not good enough to win against Portugal, I think. Czechia, normally I would say yes, they would have a good chance against Norway, but they have too many players out, a lot of new players. So without Klima, without Babak, Kasparek, Seaman, and so on, they of course have a strong defense. They have Mahua and goal, and players like Pidok and Solak, they of course need to step up. It will also be interesting to see whether Kubis, after taking over for the head coach role from Zabate, has something up his sleeve. And I'm not Norway. For me, they are miles away from their former strength. They still should be considered as an outsider, but they also have a habit of stumbling in these decisive moments, I think. And in the test matches, for me, it looks like the Norwegian attack once again often falls back into Sargosen having to carry the team on the back and create everything himself. And of course, Sargosen is still Sargosen, but he's not the top level Sargosen like 5 years ago. Of course, also with the problems in the right back position for them with Reinkind, Tønnesen and Rød out, there will be a lot of pressure on Patrick Andersson on the right back. So, if Czechia they had the normal squad, the normal experience, I would say they had a decent chance actually against Norway, but we'll see. They are not without chances, but I think it will be difficult in these two groups to see these big upsets. But I hope we'll get some upsets.
Yeah, I actually think you said it was a challenge for Norway, missing all those right backs, and obviously it is. It's a strong experience, top players, but I have very high hopes for Patrick Helland Andersson. He was very good in the test matches. He's been kind of building into the season with Aalborg. I think there's a lot of potential there, and being thrust and having to use him could be a good thing for Norway. But maybe a question on Sagosen, because I haven't seen much of him in the Danish league for Aalborg. How's he looking?
He looked very, very good in the end of last season, and then looked good in the test matches before the season, and was very unfortunate and got an injury and then a setback, of course, and that was very unfortunate for him because he looked like a little bit like the old Sargosen at times, and the type of playing for Aalborg is much better for him because he cannot just do the same as he did 5-6 years ago, taking the ball himself and just create everything. So if that's the the key of success for Norway will be very difficult. And then I'm agreeing with you regarding Patrick Helland Andersen. He is a very, very interesting player for the future, but we need to remember that this is a championship at home with a lot of pressure with Norway. So it's something totally different that being the second choice in Aalborg and playing with Elverum in the Champions League without a lot of pressure. So I'm very excited to follow him throughout this tournament because if he can cope with this and do good stuff, we know that the hype is real.
With all of these injuries for Norway at right back, was there any chance of getting old favourite of the podcast, Ivan Tangen, back from retirement? He's only 32. What happened to him? He's at your club, or he was at your club.
I know he had a lot of good offers because when you're retired and still in shape and everything like that, and there's of course some clubs around Europe who had some injury problems in this right back position. So, but I think he have of course settled down and just know that he wanted to retire. So we'll see. Maybe in the spring when you don't have to play a whole season. Who knows? But at this moment and for a championship, I don't think so.
No Tangen time.
No Tangen time this time. No. Happy to be a handballer's husband nowadays. Like, all right, let's chat a little down at Group B then, over on the other side of the draw with the third co-host. All about the co-hosts in this one: Sweden, Croatia, Netherlands, and Georgia. And in the other groups, as we said, it's quite straightforward in terms of who's likely to go through in the top two. Here, maybe not so much. Seems like Sweden and Croatia, based on recent history, should. But this is definitely the tightest of those groups. Maybe we could start a bit with the Croatians. Last year, going all the way to the World Final, backed by being at home along the way. They had the 2 test matches against Germany, both losing. A lot of expectation, I guess, locally. But it seems like a team that a lot of people are expecting to have a bit of a downfall. What do you make of them, Rasmus? And that is not all of our chat with Rasmus Boysen. We've gone through some of the big stories, but we went through the rest of the groups and a few more headlines as well with Rasmus in a part of the interview, which we're holding on Patreon and patreon.com/handball hour. So if you want to hear the full chat with Rasmus and some more bonus content as we build up to the championship starting on Thursday and throughout the championship, we'll have regular updates for our Patreon subscribers. Then do join us on patreon.com/handball hour. And one of those episodes, which we had on Patreon initially, then had released for everyone to hear, was our fantasy handball special for our league on Handball Hub, Alex, which looks like is really hotting up.
Yeah, we've got a really great response to this new app. I think most of you will know that there's some weird pricing going on, but I'm really happy with my team. So we got over 80 people in our Handball Hub group, but of course only Patreon members get an opportunity to win a mystery prize, which we will reveal as the tournament goes on. So join us for that, and anyone can still join the Handball Hub group. You just download the Handball Hub app and use the code 666444 to join our Handball Hour Handball Hub group. Lots of H's there. It's going to be a good bit of fun.
Absolutely. So that will do it for our second preview for everyone to hear. As you said, join us on Patreon for the full second preview experience with Rasmus. Otherwise, we'll catch you once the championship begins. Enjoy the opening games and talk to you again soon. Goodbye.